Itulah Pak. Kayak mana tuh Pak?
Saya sekretaris, saya tolong rumahnya langsung.
Bisa lah, kami masukkan lagi lah kalau gitu.
Bagi saya. Dibagi. Pas saja bagi kan. Kita aktif, kita tutup.
Wih, ngeri.
Bagus yang bawa.
Ini acara apa nih? Iya, hukum tuh ya.
Cara kami.
Nanti orang dengar apa ini?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, everyone, please, we are waiting for more participants. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings to all of us. The Honorable Director of Islamic University of Indragiri, Mr. Dr. Haji Najamuddin LCMA. The Honorable the Dean of Teacher Training and Education Faculty, Mr. Edi Susrianto, IP MPD. The Honorable the Head Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings to all of us. The Honorable Director of Islamic University of Indragiri, Mr. Dr. Haji Najamuddin LCMA. The Honorable the Dean of Teacher Training and Education Faculty, Mr. Dr. Edi Susrianto, IP MPD. The Honorable the Head of English Study Program, Mrs. Meldayani, MPD. The Honorable the Head of Committee One Day English Seminar, Be Brave to Speak Up in Public, Mrs. Pelci Tria Sauhana, MPD. Honorable all lecturer and staff of English Study Program, Islamic University of Indragiri, and also our beloved seminar participants. Firstly, let's say thanks to our God Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the Lord of the world, the Lord of universe, who has been giving us his blessing and mercy, so that we can gather virtually in this webinar without something wrong happen. Amin. Secondly, my peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us into the right ways of life. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to One Day English webinar. Here I am in Tanuraini from English Department, Islamic University of Indragiri. I'll be responsible as the moderator today. And I'm glad to welcome Mr. William Armstrong, who will present the very interesting topic in our one-day English seminar, Be Brave to Speak Up in Public. This webinar is sponsored by Berkah Delivery, Dunya's Mom and Kids, Emma Bags, and Rashas. It's also supported by Insta Inhale. But before starting our agenda, let me explain the agenda schedule of this webinar. The first agenda is opening by moderator. The second agenda is opening speech by the head of English Study Program, Mrs. Meldayani, MPD. The third agenda is opening speech by the Dean of Teacher Training and Education Faculty, Mr. Dr. Edi Susrianto, IP MPD. The fourth agenda is the presentation from our special speaker, Mr. William Armstrong. The fifth agenda is questions and answer session. The seventh agenda is giveaway session. And the last agenda is closing. All blessed audiences, for your information, e-certificate will be automatically sent to those who complete the attendance list, the link for which will be shared at the end of the webinar. Then we hope that participants will stay with us till the end of the webinar. I will also inform you that at the end of the webinar, we are going to give you some exciting door prize from English Department of Islamic University of Indragiri, Berkah Delivery, Dunya's Mom and Kids, Emma Bags, and Razia. The door prize will be given to 3 lucky audience who can answer the questions given by speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the first opening speech by the head of English Study Program, Mrs. Melda PD. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Des, can you hear my voice all? Okay, I believe all of you can hear my voice. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable the Dean of Teachers Training and Education Faculty, Mr. Edi Susrianto, IP MPD. Hope he is here with us. Oh yeah, he has been here together with us, yeah, because actually he has another meeting outside of this seminar. So thank you for Mr. Edi have been here together with us. And the Honorable the Head of Committee, Bu Felsi Tria Sauhana MPD, and also the team, the members, and also the Honorable our speakers, our speaker in this online seminar, Mr. Oh, how can I call you? Mr. Armstrong? Hah? Oh gitu. Okay, so thank you for the willingness to be a speaker at this seminar, Mr. Armstrong. And then the Honorable, all of the lecturers of Teachers Training and Education Faculty, especially the English teachers, English lecturers, who had joined this seminar. Well, first of all, let's thanks to Allah Almighty, the Lord of the universe, that has given us blessing today, so that we can get together over here to attend this online seminar with the theme, "Be brave to speak up in public." Yeah, and then never forget the salawat and salam we address to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Let's say it together. Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Okay, to make it short, allow me to deliver a couple of sentences in this speech. Actually, there are some, there are something that I want to talk to you today in this morning, in this online seminar. Firstly, of course, a big thanks to the committee. Without the committee, this seminar, of course, will not be run well. Actually, I really proud of the committee because they work very hard, seriously, and very carefully. So this seminar can be held today because of the hard work of the committee. Thanks again, the committee. And the second thing that I want to inform here that the seminar actually, the aim of the seminar is to facilitate all of the participants today to learn English and get some tips or get some information about English or how to be brave in speaking English in front of the public. Of course, we will hear that information from Mr. Armstrong. Is that right, Mr. Armstrong? Are you here? Maybe not, yeah. Okay, therefore, I hope that all of the participants or the audience will follow this seminar or online seminar seriously and actually yeah, stay here from the beginning till the end of this seminar. I hope that this seminar can give you knowledge so that you can use it outside of this seminar later on. Besides, this seminar is also conducted or held because we actually found in our, especially in our classroom, we found many students were afraid to speak English in front of the people. So that's why the seminar is held to motivate the students, especially in order that they can speak to be brave in speaking English in front of the public. So through this webinar, online seminar today, I hope that every one of you can practice or speak English today in the question and session answer. Don't be shy, don't be afraid, just try it because the time is limited. So you have to take the chance when there is a question and answer session, directly raise your hand and speak up. Yeah, don't be afraid. Uh, Actually, why we should afraid using English? Actually, I'm also not master of English, but I just brave to use it. Um, and today, actually, I believe that Mr. Armstrong also learned our language. Is that right, Mr. Armstrong? Is Mr. Armstrong here? Oh, masih bermasalah. Baiklah. Okay. So to motivate you today, in this occasion, yeah, I want to motivate you. Actually, I have a quote from Sarah Caldwell. I don't know who she is actually, but I just take the quote. She said that learn every time you can, anytime you can, from anyone you can. There will always come a time when you will be grateful you did. I think this quote means learning can change your life. We don't know what will you be next year, some years later. Maybe by learning this language, by learning English, you will have a successful career. Yeah, we don't know. So that's why learning, especially learning English, is very important. So you can use this chance to actually have a good life later on. Yeah. Actually, learning language will open your mind, will open your heart. We learn so many, cultures. When you do not learn the language, you do not know actually. When you do not learn many languages outside Indonesia, you will not know the cultures. Okay, so that's why I hope that in this online seminar, there are many SMA students or senior high school students. Is that right? Yeah. When you are interested in English, interested in English, you can actually join us in this prodi. Yeah, we wait you here. We can help you. Yeah, we can be together here, learn English, and practice it every day. When you want to want to know English deeply, you can come to Prodi Bahasa Inggris. Yeah, we are here waiting you. We can together sharing English here. Yeah, and hopefully after you finish from English department or English study program here, you can have a good English, can speak English very well, and I believe you can get a very good career outside of this. Later on, yeah. So when you want to join with English study program, you can contact us, especially me, yeah, or your senior here. So many senior here, yeah, English study program students. You can contact them or just come to Unisi to to get the form. Yeah, now we have. You can come to Unisi now to get the form. Yeah, just like that. Okay, Mr. Armstrong sudah ada di sini? Belum lagi? Okay. I think enough for today. I hope all of you can listen what I'm saying today. Can you answer me all? Maybe you can unmute your Zoom. Can you hear me all? Can you hear me? SMA student, are
Yes,
you there?
Crystal clear, madam. Crystal clear.
Yes, very
can
clear.
hear you.
Yes. Crystal clear.
SMA student, are you there? Which one is SMA student? Raise your hand, please. Show your video. One of you. Yeah. Maybe Muhammad Andi, are you an SMA student? Or Ardian Saputra? Okay, yeah. I hope that all of SMA student or senior high school student can join us in English study program. We learn together here. Yeah, okay, thank you. I think enough for this speech today. I'm too sorry for all the inconvenience. And I'm too sorry for all mistakes that I have said before. I do sorry. So I hope that Mr. Armstrong will together with us.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Meldaini, MPD, for the speech. The second is opening speech by the Dean of Teacher Training and Education Faculty, Mr. Dr. Edi Susrianto, IP MPD. Time is yours.
Bihi Rasulillahi ajma'in amma ba'du. Yang sama-sama kita hormati Mr. William M.
tidak ada. Bicara ya, tidak ada berbicara.
Permisi Pak Edi, Prof. Mati.
Apa?
Pak Dokter, suaranya belum kedengaran tadi Pak.
Kedengaran? Ini saya udah
Iya,
kedengaran. Ini udah kedengaran.
Ada, sekarang sudah Pak.
Sudah.
Iya, iya, sudah Pak.
Udah kedengaran, harus dimulai dari awal lagi.
Terdengar, Pak.
Sudah
Belum,
dengar
Pak.
ya?
Iya, Pak.
Iya. Baik, dalam acara yang sangat berbahagia ini, saya menyampaikannya dalam bahasa Indonesia ya, mohon maaf sekali lagi. Kemudian dengan one day seminar English ini dengan tema Be Brave to Speak Up in Public. Nah, seperti yang disampaikan oleh Ibu Kaprodi Bahasa Inggris tadi, ini sebuah kegiatan yang akan mengasah nanti bagaimana kita berani berbicara bahasa Inggris di tengah-tengah publik. Baik, ucapan terima kasih saya yang terhormat kepada Mr. William Armstrong sebagai native speaker pada pagi ini. Kemudian yang terhormat Ibu Ketua Prodi Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris, Ibu Melda Yeni MPD. Kemudian yang terhormat Ketua Panitia beserta semua jajaran yang tidak bisa saya sebutkan satu persatu yang telah ikut mensukseskan kegiatan webinar yang akan kita laksanakan insya Allah pada pagi dan siang hari ini. Kemudian ucapan terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada semua donatur yang telah turut serta mensukseskan kegiatan ini, yang memberikan sumbangan yang tidak bisa saya sebutkan satu persatu juga. Kemudian yang saya muliakan Bapak Ibu peserta seminar, baik sebagai dosen, guru, siswa maupun simpatisan atau praktisi pendidikan yang berminat memperdalam bahasa Inggris dalam kesempatan hari ini. Kemudian para undangan yang saya muliakan. Pertama-tama marilah kita mengucapkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala yang telah memberikan rahmat dan karunia kepada kita bersama sehingga kegiatan webinar One Day English Seminar ini dapat terlaksana dengan baik. Insya Allah nanti akan lancar sampai akhir. Kemudian kepada Rasulullah SAW, sama-sama kita mengucapkan salawat bertanya salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Semoga syafaat yang dijanjikan ya baginda Rasulullah insya Allah nanti membantu kita jamil akhir nanti. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Kemudian bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, para peserta seminar, siswa-siswi yang saya muliakan. Seperti yang dikatakan oleh Ibu Ketua Prodi tadi, bahwa salah satu bahasa Inggris adalah turut menentukan karir ataupun prospek seseorang untuk masa yang akan datang. Karena faktor bahasa ini adalah faktor yang sangat penting tidak hanya dalam pergaulan internasional, dunia pendidikan maupun dunia bisnis. Maka sangat relevan kira-kira dengan tema bahasa Inggris yang diangkat pada pagi ini. Jangan takut berbahasa Inggris di depan publik umpamanya. Jadi oleh sebab itu, ini sebagai guru kita perlu memberikan motivasi kepada siswa kita untuk agar mereka tidak takut berbahasa Inggris, baik di tengah-tengah publik maupun di tengah-tengah keluarga. Saya berterima kasih atas tema yang telah ditaja tersebut. Maka ya, dan kemudian siapa didengar suara saya? Halo? Halo?
Bisa Pak, bisa Pak.
Saya didengar ya? Nah, baik.
Bisa Pak. Ya.
Kemudian ucapan yang tidak terhingga, pada saat sekarang ini dunia global, ini membutuhkan keahlian dalam berbahasa. Tidak hanya berbahasa Inggris, tetapi bahasa-bahasa pengantar internasional lainnya. Kemudian dengan adanya global di bidang edukasi, perdagangan, dan sebagainya, ini tentu menuntut kita agar bisa menguasai salah satu bahasa asing yang tidak hanya bahasa Inggris, tetapi juga bahasa-bahasa yang dipakai oleh dunia internasional. Maka oleh sebab itu kita sebagai dosen, sebagai guru, sebagai pendidik atau praktisi pendidikan, mari sama-sama kita beri semangat dan motivasi kepada peserta didik kita agar mereka berani berbahasa, tidak hanya bahasa Inggris tetapi bahasa asing yang lainnya, demi untuk dan juga menunjang jenjang karir mereka untuk masa yang akan datang. Kemudian kita lihat dalam dunia pendidikan bahasa Inggris sekarang tidak hanya mengantarkan siswa bisa berbahasa Inggris, tetapi mampu dan berani untuk mengucapkan bahasa Inggris itu di tengah-tengah komunitas mereka. Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu peserta webinar yang saya muliakan, baik, saya kemudian di akhir dari kata pengantar ini mengucapkan terima kasih yang tidak terhingga kepada Bapak Ketua Dewan Pembina Universitas Islam Indragiri, Bapak Ketua Yayasan Tasik Gemilang, Bapak Rektor Universitas Islam Indragiri, Dr. Haji Najabuddin LCMA, yang telah memberi kesempatan kepada Promstudi Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris untuk mengadakan kegiatan ini dalam rangka sebagai sebuah institusi kita juga perlu melaksanakan promosi. Promosi pendidikan ini diharapkan nanti kita mudah-mudahan para siswa-siswa yang sekarang duduk di kelas 3 SD, yang duduk di kelas 3 SMA, bisa untuk masuk ke Promstudi Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris di Universitas Islam Indragiri. Maka oleh sebab itu, dengan semangat dan motivasi tinggi, mari kita ikuti kegiatan webinar ini sebaik-baiknya. Baik, dengan tidak memperpanjang waktu, dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. One Day English Seminar dengan tema Be Brave to Speak Up in Public. Dengan ini resmi saya nyatakan dibuka. Semoga Allah Subhanahu wa taala memberikan kekuatan kita bersama dari awal seminar sampai akhir seminar. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Edi Susrianto, IP MPD, for the greeting, which is officially open this webinar today. Finally, it's time for us to move on to the main agenda, which we are waiting for. Explanation from the speaker, Mr. William Armstrong. Before we start, let me read his CV.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Morning, sir.
Terima kasih telah mengundangkan saya hari ini. Good morning from the UK. My name is William Armstrong. Please call me William. I have previously worked at the University of York in England, teaching English for academic purposes. And last year, I was teaching in Pekanbaru in Indonesia.
Ada ketemu link tadi. Ada ketemu enggak? Buka di ini sih dulu
I believe that today's topic is an interesting subject because it relates to one of the main barriers to learning an additional language. Would someone be able to share, because I've joined via the web, I'm not sure I can share my PowerPoint. Oh, here we go. So I want you to think about our topic. Why is it important for us to be brave when we're speaking? Why do we need to be brave when we're speaking? And during my talk, I'm going to ask a few questions. So if you have a pen and paper, then you might want to write down any ideas that you have. And I would also like you to share your ideas. So please share any ideas in the chat. Or because today's topic is being brave while speaking. When I ask you to share ideas, you can raise your hand and the moderator can select you to share your thoughts with us. If you have any questions, I'll give you a chance to ask me questions at the end, but you can also raise your hand to ask a question. How do you feel when you're speaking another language? I want you to think about your feelings. You could think about your past experiences, or maybe imagine different situations and how you would feel in that situation. So, can you give me some ideas about what feelings you might have when you have to speak in another language? Anxiety. I think that's a very common one. Nervousness. Yeah, feeling nervous. I think these are two of the most common feelings when we have to speak in another language. Feeling anxious, feeling anxiety, or feeling nervous. Afraid of making a mistake. I think that's a very common feeling, and that's exactly what I want to talk about today. So next, I'd like you to think about, when do you feel anxious or nervous? Is it every time you speak in another language, or does it depend on the situation? So you could have different situations. Speaking with friends in another language, speaking in an online meeting, or maybe speaking in front of a room of people. So think about when you have anxious or nervous feelings. And then secondly, I don't want you to think about why. Why might be because there's a lot of people listening. But instead, try to think about what. What are you afraid
Kak, ada yang masih Kak?
or nervous about? And we already have one suggestion for this in the chat. Afraid of making mistakes. And we can divide this into two things. We can be afraid of relating to our speaking, or it could be speaking in front of a room of people. Maybe I'm worried that the microphone won't work, or so we can now just focus on our speaking. Why are we nervous or anxious? We are worried we'll go wrong. Next, how does a symbol or a bad symbol? You can just put good or bad in the chat. Is this good or a bad symbol?
Good symbol.
Firstly, bad. Good symbol. Okay. How about this one then? We've got the red cross or the green tick. Which one of these two symbols would you like to see on your written work? The red cross or the green tick? So if you've completed some written work, which one would you prefer to see on your work? The green tick. Is there anyone who would prefer the cross?
Sir, we cannot hear your voice.
Green tick again. I think most of us would prefer the green check on our written work. But which of the two symbols do you think gives us the best? We can think how the two symbols help us. The green tick might help us. It will tell us that we've done something correctly. But the red cross can help us improve to find which areas of our language we can improve. So although we know the can you hear me now? Are you
Go on.
like to see the cross because we feel like we made a mistake?
Hello, Mister. Hello, Mr. William. We can't hear your voice.
Hello, can you hear me clearly now?
It's not clear, Mister.
Hello, can you hear me?
It looks like unstable. It looks like unstable signal, maybe. Hello, Mister.
Can you hear me now?
Not yet, Mister.
Is it more clear now? Can you hear me now?
No, at all.
I think maybe it's the connection.
Hello, Mister. Can you hear my voice clearly, Mister?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Hello, sir. Not yet.
Okay. Um,
Celana Reno sama
I'm sorry, Al. Maybe because that now. So we waiting for Mr. William to join with us again.
hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear.
Great. Okay. I'll continue my presentation from where I got to. Please let me know in the chat if you can't hear clearly again. But hopefully it was just a connection problem.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so hopefully you can see our two symbols again. As we said, we might prefer the green check on our written work, but the red cross actually gives us more chance to learn. There's a word or a phrase we can use to describe these feelings. The feelings of not wanting to make a mistake when we're speaking in another language. Can anyone suggest what this term might be? It's two words. Does anyone know which words we might use to describe these feelings of not wanting to make a mistake when we're speaking in another language? We've got the first part of it. Learn is the first part. Perfection might be what we're aiming for. The phrase we use is learner anxiety. Have you heard of this term before? Learner anxiety. What does it mean? I'm going to show you a definition for learner anxiety. Please don't worry if you don't understand every word. It's an academic definition, but it's useful for us to think about what this means. So here is our definition. Learner anxiety is a distinct complex of self-perceptions, beliefs, feelings, and behaviors related to classroom language learning arising from the uniqueness of the language learning process. And that might sound complicated, but we've got two important things. It talks about feelings, our emotions, and it's the feelings we get when we're learning a new language. So two important things. Feelings from learning a language. And these are usually negative feelings like nervousness and anxiousness. Generally think about this language. Learner anxiety can also happen to us in our native language. For example, in an academic setting. If I'm using academic language, for example, hello?
Hello, sir. Your voice is not clear again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, now, yes, I can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me? Maybe it's sometimes when I'm showing the presentation as well.
I think so.
Okay. Maybe I can switch between the presentation and my video so that you can hear me clearly. So, although we normally think of learner anxiety for when we're learning another language, it can also happen to us in our native language too. For example, in an academic setting, if we're using academic language, we can be nervous about whether we're using the correct words, whether we understand all the words, and whether we're pronouncing the words correctly. Why is learner anxiety bad, or why is it detrimental to our learning? What effect does it have? Learner anxiety interferes with acquisition, retention, and production of the target language. So what this means is it affects how we learn the language, how we remember the language, but most importantly, our production of the language. And this is our speaking. This is where our being brave when we're speaking comes in. This is what we're particularly interested in, our production. So if learner anxiety is a major barrier for our speaking, how can we overcome this? So I'd like to think, what can we do to get past our learner anxiety? As we discussed, learner anxiety relates to our view of errors, of making mistakes. So what can we do to reduce this negative effect? And what I'd like to do now, if the moderator could put you into breakout rooms, I would like to give you 2 minutes to discuss some ideas of what you think you could do, and then we'll share our ideas. So if that's okay with the moderator, could you put everyone into breakout rooms of maybe 3 or 4 people and just give them 2 minutes to discuss ideas of what they think they can do to overcome learner anxiety? Can we put people into breakout rooms, or would you like me to do it? Or we can just discuss it in the chat. So we've got practice. Okay?
Hello, Mister. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Okay. Hello. So I'd like to share some of these ideas. If anyone would like to raise their hand and tell us their idea for how we can overcome learner anxiety, that would be great. Or you can put it in the chat. Okay, so we've got a question in the chat. So there's a good point made in this question that fear and anxiety is often not something that comes from other people, but it comes from our own feelings, and it might not be real or exactly what's happening. Does anyone have any suggestions of how we can overcome our learner anxiety? We had one suggestion before about practice. You can think some more about what kind of practice is helpful. Practice in front of the mirror. And this might help our learner anxiety because it gives us feedback. we can see feedback about what we are doing. Does anyone have any other suggestions of things we can do or remember to help us with our learner anxiety? Taking a deep breath is a very good suggestion because it makes us feel more calm. Any more ideas of things we can think about, things we can remember to help us overcome our learner anxiety? Or any tips that you have? Good, so we've got practicing with a partner. And earlier I asked you to think about when you feel nervous speaking in another language. If you're just practicing with one person, maybe you feel more comfortable, more confident, and that will reduce your learner anxiety. Positive thoughts as well. And we'll think in a moment about what type of positive thoughts might help us. Any other suggestions about what you think we can do to overcome our learner anxiety? Forget about grammar. This is an interesting idea. Do the rest of you agree that maybe forgetting about grammar can help with our learner anxiety, as well as practicing a lot? I think this is a good suggestion. I think that if we worry too much about our grammar, then it will really have an effect on our speaking. Enrich our vocabularies. So learn more vocabulary, and that will help the complexity of our speaking. And we will also be able to describe things better because we'll have more words to describe them with. Okay, I'm going to if the moderator, could you unmute someone if they wish to speak?
Okay, sir.
So we've got some good suggestions about practice and situations where we will be more comfortable to practice.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Well, do you have any suggestions for us of how to overcome our anxiety?
Well, I will try to my best to give a little bit more suggestion from me. Well, before doing that, first of all, I am Nadia. Just call me Nadia. Yeah, for learning anxiety, I have two suggestions. I mean, two branches. The first, before getting to talk, and then the second part is during the talk. So the first, when we want to learn foreign language, in this case is English, of course we have to make everything well prepared, like vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, and everything. But we don't have to make all of those perfect. Just, for example, in process. But yeah, it's true that we have to brave feeling or don't be afraid to try anything, like this case that is learning foreign language. Well, so my suggestion, perhaps all of those of you have known about it, but this is very common, yeah. This is what I always do when I practice or learn foreign language. Just get used to read and listen to authentic resources like podcasts. And this podcast, you can get it from the real sources like British Council or the article like National Geography or like something like that. Yeah, so you can read every day and you can get a lot of important or useful vocabulary there. And then you can put five to 10 vocabularies. And then from that list of words, you can practice those of words. That's okay, for example, in front of mirror or perhaps in front of your friend who will able to speak English well. And then after that, ask your friend to correct your mistake. And then listen to podcasts. I always listen to podcasts every day, and I'd like to listen in British Council. This has really helped me a lot. So yeah, thanks to British Council, even though it does upper intermediate level, I think. Yeah, perhaps that's my level, but I don't know really because I never, try to know in reliable source to know what my level. Yeah, so before the talk, get used to read and listen as much as possible from authentic or like from native sources. For example, you can join language exchange apps like Speaky or Tandem. Yeah, I get it. And you can find lots of native speakers there and practice your target language. And during the talk, of course, it is the fun way or fun time to practice everything you've done. And yeah, just relax and enjoy it. It will be better, I suppose. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Nadia. There's a lot of very good suggestions in there, and you make a really important point about the fact that listening and speaking are very closely linked. So if we listen to podcasts, then that can help us with our speaking. These, the same as reading and writing, are very closely linked skills. Listening and speaking are very closely linked too. So that's very important. Okay, if people want to continue making their suggestions in the chat, I'm going to just mention 7 things that I think it's important for us to remember to help overcome our learner anxiety when we're speaking. Hopefully you can still hear me clearly when I share my presentation again. So the first thing is to focus on what is the reason we are speaking. Focus on communication. If someone understands us, if we can share our ideas, then that communication has been successful. So it's important to remember that and not think that successful communication is following correct rules for grammar and vocabulary. Secondly, Another thing we should remember is that there's no perfect language. There's no one correct sentence in any situation. And some examples of this would be that people have different style. So what might be a good sentence for me might not fit someone else's communication style. Another example might be if you know any authors who have written books, if you ask them when their book is finished, I think they'll normally say it's never finished. They edit it, they keep writing, and in the end, they just have to decide it's ready. But there's no perfect version of their book, and there's no perfect version of language. So we shouldn't be trying for perfection, as someone mentioned earlier. Acknowledging anxiety is also important. So we all accept that everyone feels learner anxiety sometimes, especially speaking in another language. And by acknowledging it, by recognizing that this happens, we can think about the what that I mentioned earlier. What am I anxious about? What might happen? I might forget the vocabulary for a certain word. What would I do if that happened? So we can think about how we might feel and what we would do. And this makes us feel more prepared. Practice is one that several people mentioned, and it's one of the most important things to help us overcome our learner anxiety. The more we practice, the more confident we become, and the less nervous we feel. Earlier in the chat, someone mentioned forget about grammar rules. And when we're speaking, this can be quite important. One example that I think of, when I was teaching at the University of York, I had a student from China. Her name was Angela.
Hello,
and the first time I saw her writing, there was a lot of she would find the course very difficult. Can you hear me clearly? Can you hear me clearly? Okay, I'll stop the presentation again and switch back to my video, and hopefully you can hear me clearly.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, it's clear.
So, okay, good. So I was saying that I had one student at the University of York from China. Her name was Angela, and when I saw her writing, there was a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors in it, and I was concerned that she might find the course very difficult. And the first time I heard her speaking in class, I thought maybe it was a different person, because when I heard her speaking seemed excellent. And if you listened very carefully, she did make a lot of mistakes. The same mistakes from her writing were in her speaking, but she spoke very fluently. So my important thing to remember is that we have more than one element of speaking. Speaking is not just accuracy, it's also fluency and complexity. So this is an important thing to remember. If we concentrate just on accuracy when we're speaking, then we won't speak fluently. We will have lots of pauses, and that makes it much harder for the listener to understand. We should also think about what success for our speaking is. If we were in an exam, a speaking exam, maybe we would think success is demonstrating our ability. So if we think short term, success might be demonstrating our current ability. But if we think longer term, maybe success is improving our ability, not just demonstrating how we can already speak in the language, but improving our ability. So to overcome our learner anxiety, it's important to remember this. Success is improving, and sometimes we need to make mistakes to help improve. And my final point, and this might be the most important, is to persist. So when we first say something, if someone doesn't understand us, this is one of our best opportunities to improve our speaking. We can repeat what we said, but we also try to, we can also try to say the same thing using different words. And I believe this is one of the best opportunities for learning our speaking, is using creativity. So when someone doesn't understand us the first time, by explaining in different ways and being creative with the language we know, we learn far better than just memorizing and repeating phrases. So they're my main points for overcoming anxiety. Let me just, there's a few questions and comments and questions in the chat, so let me just have a look at those. Okay, hello Eva, thank you for your question. And you want to know how to make people talk comfortably, and that was one of the things that maybe I would mention next. We've spoken so far about how we can overcome our learner anxiety, but another thing we can think about is how can we all help? How can we help other people overcome their learner anxiety? And maybe before I give my ideas on this, if anyone else would like to put in the chat, do you have any ideas how we can help other people overcome their learner anxiety? And while you're thinking about how we can help other people, let me just read the next question. Okay, so Maulana, I hope I said your name correctly. So for people who are shy about talking in English, how can we build up our mental, so our confidence? I think a lot of the things we've spoken about, it's important what we think about. By taking the pressure off ourselves, by remembering the things that I've just talked about, and also the things people have suggested, that practice is very important, but it's not just practicing the language, it's practicing feeling anxiety, but still being able to speak. And we can build that practice through some of the situations where we're most comfortable, like speaking in another language of our friends, but it's important to keep feeling that anxiety. So if we're comfortable with speaking another language of our friends, maybe we need to practice speaking another language with strangers where we feel slightly less comfortable.
Sir,
And that
sorry,
yes?
your voice not clear.
Okay, let me close the slides again, and hopefully you can hear me clearly.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Does anyone have any suggestions for how we can help other people overcome their learner anxiety? We've talked about what we can do ourselves. Do you have any suggestions of things that we can do? Ah, great. So we've got the suggestion that we can give feedback to people so that their mistakes can change into improvements. We can tell other people that they to forget about their grammar, not to worry about their grammar too much. Does anyone have any other suggestions of what we can do to help other people? I think we can encourage and praise them is important. It's like our green check. It builds our confidence. English communities is our chance to practice English. And we can divide these ideas for helping other people into two sections. One is about the environment. We're making a comfortable environment so that people feel more confident. We're encouraging and praising them, and we're not focusing on the mistakes so that they can practice being fluent. The second part is error correction. How do we correct people's errors? And so, yeah, we've got forgetting about mistakes. It's very important when we feel someone else has made an error or mistake in their speaking. How do we correct that, or do we not want to correct that? Firstly, we've mentioned fluency. So we don't want to stop someone in the middle of their talking because that will prevent their fluency. And we can decide whether that error is important or not. If someone is making the same error many times, maybe later we can help them by giving them feedback, as someone mentioned, and they can turn that mistake into an improvement. But if it's just one mistake, maybe they already know. So we can create an environment where it's okay to make mistakes, and we can learn and practice our fluency. Okay, does anyone have any other questions for me? If you have any questions, either about learner anxiety or any other questions for me.
Okay, sir, we have question from Andriansa. The question is, could you give some tips to be confident to speak English for the beginner? and how to learn about English term quickly. Because sometimes when you translate bahasa into English, it has different terms.
Okay, so the first thing for speaking confidently, I think we've spoken a lot about practice. Practice is the most important thing. And while you're practicing, not being afraid of making mistakes. If you practice and only say things you're very confident about and try not to make mistakes, then you won't learn as much. But if you practice and try to talk about things you find difficult to talk about because the language is complex, you will learn a lot more. So that would be my first tip for that. Could you remind me of what the second part of the question was? Let me look at some of the other questions in the chat as well. There's an interesting one here. How to overcome a tendency to mumble or say This is very interesting because if you listen carefully, people often say or other little noises, and this is actually a natural part of speech. It's something we do naturally, and the reason is to tell the person listening to us that we're still continuing our speech, but it's a way of giving a pause. It prevents us speaking too quickly, and it gives us time to think. If you hear yourself recorded and you notice that you say or a lot, it might be very easy for you to notice. But when someone's speaking naturally, you might not notice it as much. So although we don't want to repeat sound like that too often, it is an important part of language, so we shouldn't worry about it. Again, our learner anxiety can make us worry about making sounds like when we pause, but it's not something that has a bad effect on our speaking. We've got a question, how to encourage our interest in speaking English. I would say that the important thing is to think about why you want to be able to speak English and how it might help you in the future. English is a global language, or the global language, and it's a very important way to communicate with people across the world. And that could be when you visit another country, or it could be when you meet people in your country who are visiting from another country. And I think meeting new people and being able to communicate with new people is one of the most interesting things. So hopefully that encourages your interest. How to influence or invite the environment to speak English as their second language. Again, I think it's important to show how it is relevant to us. Why will it help us? But also link it to our interests. So improving our listening and our speaking might be really important for being able to listen to and interact with, for example, our favorite people on YouTube or people we speak to in other countries. We've got another comment, Nadia. Listening to native is frustrating feeling. because of contraction and connection of words. So how do you improve contraction and connection? I think, to answer Nadia's question, this is something that where it really helps to practice our listening to how pronunciation changes when we use contraction and connection. And one thing that you might find very useful is to look at IPA pronunciation chart. So if you're familiar with a phonemic chart, I find this is a really useful thing to look at. It has all the sounds we use in the English language. And when you're listening, you can identify which sounds people use. And this is really important for things like strong and weak forms, because when we speak naturally, our pronunciation can be very different from how we practice it in the classroom. And the best way to get used to that is listening to people speaking English. But that can be anything. It can be in films or movies. It can be on YouTube, anywhere. Any listening you can do. Nadia also mentioned earlier that there's specific podcasts from people like the British Council, and they're great because they're designed to help you. But if it's something you're interested in, then it's great to practice listening. And the more you practice, the more you'll get used to the natural pronunciation, which makes your speaking sound a lot more natural, and it makes you feel more confident too. Let me just put in the chat. It's the IPA phonemic chart. If you search for one, it'll have a lot of symbols. You might have seen it before, and it's a way of writing the words which tells us exactly how they're pronounced. It's a really good resource, particularly when we're not quite sure how something's pronounced. We have another question. Can I share my experience of speaking another language? And I do speak Bahasa a little bit. And actually, I didn't learn very much of my Bahasa through studying. Almost all of my Bahasa I learnt by chatting with my Indonesian friends. Some of my Indonesian friends have fantastic English, so they only want to speak to me in English to practice their English. But some of my Indonesian friends don't speak English. And I learnt Bahasa by speaking with them. And I made so many mistakes. Sometimes they found it very funny when I said things wrong, but they were supportive. We talked about how we can help other people. They were always encouraged me. And I tried to be creative with my language. So there was lots of vocabulary I don't know in Bahasa. And if I didn't know the word for something, I would try to describe it using the Bahasa that I do have. And that is really helpful for developing our speaking, being creative. Any other questions that anyone has for me?
Okay, Mr. Maybe we can go on.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, now we move on to the giveaway session. Now Mr. William will give question for audience, and participants who answer the question will get a door prize. So Mr. William, time is yours.
Okay. So a question
Yeah.
for the participants. Okay. My first question is, what do we call the major barrier to our speaking in another language? What term do we use?
Please repeat again your question, sir.
What is the term we use to describe our major barrier to speaking in another language, our major problem?
Okay, participants who can answer the question.
What is the term that we use for the biggest problem we face? Okay, so major problem, self-confidence. Why do we have a problem with, why are we not confident? What stops us feeling confident?
Is it the next question, sir?
No, the same question.
Okay.
What is it that prevents us feeling confident? What did we talk about that stops us from feeling confident?
Okay, for participants who can answer the questions.
Exactly. Afraid of making a mistake, being shy. Can you remember the words I used to describe that feeling? Excellent. We have the correct answer there. Learner anxiety is the correct answer. Do we want a second question?
Okay, so who the first winner, sir?
In the comment, it's Rita Ayani. Sorry if I've said your name incorrectly.
Rida Aryani.
Yeah.
Okay. So congratulations to Rida Aryani. You get the first door prize. Okay, next question, sir.
Okay, for the second question, I want someone to tell us one way that we can overcome our learner anxiety. What is one tip? What is one thing we can do to help us be brave with our speaking? So for the second question, I just want you to tell us one thing we can do to help overcome our learner anxiety and be brave in our speaking.
Okay, so the question is, what is the big problem of speaking English? And how to speak brave?
Okay, we've got some correct answers here. We can focus on communication. Remember that there's no perfect language, and practice. And we've also got enrich vocabulary. So our first correct answer was from Rifki. Forget the grammar for the moment is a very good suggestion. We're not saying that grammar isn't important at all, but we don't want to think about it too much.
So who's the winner, sir?
Rifki
Oh,
was the first correct answer.
so congratulations to Rifki. You will get the door prize. And then the next question, sir?
Another
The
question.
last one. Last one.
Okay, last question. What would you do to make someone else feel more comfortable in their speaking? What would you do to make someone else more confident in their speaking? Okay, we've got give motivation to them. Could you tell us how you would give them motivation? Creating a nice environment. I think that is our correct answer. Creating a nice environment. We're making an environment where people comfortable and interesting topics is also good. But our first correct answer is Eva with creating a nice environment. Make people comfortable. Very important.
Oke. Nah, Ading ini tadi sudah benar tadi ada 3 nih. Ading sempat nulis 3 tadi kan di sini kan?
Okay, anyone can answer directly, showing your face.
We have the first correct answer for the third question was from Eva, creating a nice environment.
Apa yuk ni? Okay, so the last winner is Eva Gultom.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. So congratulations for Eva and Indah Aryani, and then Rifki. You get the door prize. Okay. And the door prize are sponsored by Islamic University of Indragiri, Berkah Delivery, Dunya's Mom, Kids, Emma Beck, and Raisha. And then you can take the prize at Islamic University on Sebranta Street.
One more question. So can you please give one more?
Okay, sir. Maybe you can. Oh, one more question, sir.
One more question.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to think of a new question. What other components, what other part is there to our speaking skill apart from accuracy? We've got accuracy. Can you tell me another thing in our speaking skill? So for our fourth question, what is another part of our speaking skill apart from our accuracy? Fluency. Very good. We have a correct answer there on the chat from Nadia. So for our fourth question, our winner is Nadia.
Okay, so congratulations to Nadia. You get a door prize.
And complexity is also correct, Rifki. Very good. If we have time before we finish, does anyone have any more questions they would like to ask me?
Because you can speak bahasa, promote the English department by using bahasa Indonesia. Because you can speak. Can you?
Okay, sir. Because you can speak bahasa, can you promote English study program by Bahasa Indonesia?
Sorry, could I promote the program in Bahasa?
Yes.
Maybe my Bahasa isn't good enough. Saya berpikir itu bagus bisa berbicara banyak bahasa dan itu sangat penting bisa berbicara bahasa Inggris kerana itu pertama bahasa bisa berbicara dengan banyak orang.
Okay, thank you, Mr. William. Okay, we have challenge now. The last challenge for senior high school student in Tembilahan to speak with Mr. William. we will give you another special door prize. Please, anyone? Just for senior high school student in Tembilahan. Oke, saya menggunakan bahasa Indonesia. Untuk siswa yang siswa tingkat SMA yang ada di Tembilahan, silahkan berbicara dengan speaker kita, dengan Mr. William Armstrong. Dan yang berbicara akan kita berikan hadiah yang sangat menarik. Oke, anyone please? Ayo, kapan lagi ngomong sama bule? Oke, karena nggak ada sekarang, untuk mahasiswa Prodi Bahasa Inggris, Unisi. Oke, mahasiswa Universitas Islam Indragiri. Siapa yang ingin berbicara dengan Mr. William? Oke, selain bahasa Inggris juga boleh. Yang lokasinya di Tembilahan.
Hello, sir. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Hello. Nice to meet you too.
Will you come to Tembilahan, sir, to meet us?
I hope so. I would like to. I've never visited Tembilahan, but when I come back to Indonesia, I would love to visit the university there.
Okay, sir, I will write you. Okay.
Thank you. What can you tell me about Tembilahan?
In Tembilahan, there is some cleaner, sembole, and rendang.
Ah, my favorite food.
Yes, nasi padang, sir. Okay, sir, thank you.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sipa. You get the special door prize. And thank you again, Mr. William Armstrong, for answering those questions and for the great presentation. It was
Thank you
a
very much.
pleasure to have you with us. So this concludes the webinar. Okay, sir, do you have closing statement?
Firstly, I'd just like to address something in the chat. Nadia said she has a letter of acceptance from 3 different UK universities, which is fantastic, but didn't make the interview stage of Chevening for a scholarship. One thing I would say for scholarships, I have a lot of friends in Indonesia who have applied and successfully applied for scholarships in Europe, And again, their most important tip is to keep trying. I don't think any of them were successful with their first application for a scholarship. So the important thing is to keep applying, find as many scholarships as you can, and don't give up, even for the same scholarship. My friend Rika came from Pekanbaru to study in London, and she applied for many scholarships, and she applied for Chevening 2 or 3 times before she was successful. But then she was successful and completed her master's in London, and it was a fantastic experience. So don't give up, keep applying, and I hope you get a scholarship to come and study in the UK. In closing, I'd like to say thank you all so much for inviting me today. And if you have any feedback on this, on my presentation, please give it to your lecturers and they will pass it on to me. And remember, the most important thing is not to worry about making mistakes when we're speaking in another language. That's the one thing I want you to remember. Try not to worry about making mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. But they're an opportunity for us to learn. And as long as people understand what we mean, even if we have to say something more than once, then our communication has been successful. And we can be proud of our communication in another language. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today. Thank you, and I apologize profusely if any words that less pleasing to the audience. Let us close one day English seminar. Be brave to speak up in public by saying hamdalah. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin.
Thank you, Mr. William. Thank you, Mr. William.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. William.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. William, for nice sharing about English. Thank you very much today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. William, for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are going to close this meeting.
Okay. Sorry. Just to reply. Someone asked about contacting me. I'm very happy for anyone who wants to contact me. The easiest way is to contact me on Instagram. I'll put my Instagram account.
Okay.
or in the chat. That should be in the chat now. Is my Instagram name. If anyone wants to chat with me more about English or ask me any more questions, I'm very happy for you to ask me through Instagram. Sorry. Thank you.
Inside Instagram. Okay, thank you again, Mr.
Thank you.